Tonight, politicians in peril.
You have released the whirlwind.
Political rhetoric helps fuel increasing threats to lawmakers.
Those words can easily convert to violence.
Plus, in the wake of a Christian school shooting.
This is not about gun control. This is about protecting people's lives.
A focus on safety and mental health in Tennessee. And mommy wine culture.
It normalizes this idea that like drinking a lot is no big deal.
The risks of a dangerous trend. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. From the campaign trail to the U.S. Capitol, growing fear over the safety of America's lawmakers. Good evening in Washington, I'm Jenna Browder. As the 2024 campaign ramps up, so do concerns over political rhetoric. New data shows threats against candidates, lawmakers, and other public figures on the rise. And the multiple trials former President Donald Trump faces are expected to escalate things even further. Security experts warn violence is more likely when lawmakers are away from Washington, and that leaves an already stretched Capitol Hill police force struggling to keep up with any threat environment. National security correspondent Caitlin Burke has our top story. Caitlin, what are some of the threat trends we're seeing?
Jenna, according to a new report by the University of Nebraska, threats sharply increased in 2017 and 2021, both years following a pivotal U.S. election. The number of threats against lawmakers specifically have surged 400% over the last 6 years, and Capitol Police maintain in order to fulfill their duty of keeping Congress safe, it's going to require an updated model of law enforcement.
The old approach to member security has been replaced by the need to protect a member's environment, as well as the member's family, both in Washington, D.C. and at their home.
The need for such a shift became evident last year. First, with a violent attack on the husband of former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi in their home, and more recently against staff members at the district headquarters of Representative Gary Connolly, a Democrat from Virginia.
And the increasingly heated political rhetoric further heightened the prospect of future security risks and challenges. We must be adequately staffed to handle these events. We are not currently.
Donnell Harvin, former chief of D.C. Homeland Security and Intelligence, tells CBN News both right and left-wing extremists use comments from high-profile lawmakers as a call to mobilize.
There are lawmakers who put things out there. They make statements. They send tweets. And to them, it may be benign, right? They may feel like they're appealing to their base or giving the people that vote for them or their constituents exactly what they want to hear from their perspective. Meanwhile, those words can easily convert to violence amongst individuals who don't take them just as words.
As an example, Harvin points to comments made ahead of the ruling that eventually overturned Roe v. Wade.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
That demonization can lead to what we call stochastic terrorism. And that's when there is a specific threat of violence or actual violence against an individual because they've been demonized by a group or an individual that is prominent.
Months later, authorities stopped an assassination attempt near the home of Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Harvin, like Capitol Police Chief Tom Manger, believes these violent threats will only increase now that the 2024 campaign is underway, and predicts the overall lack of trust in the federal government will only make things worse.
I think that we're living in a time in which there is great degradation of public trust in public institutions. And so anything that the federal government would tell them to make them safer or protect them is going to be seen with skepticism.
Following President Trump's 4 indictments, data shows there's now a surge in threats against judges and prosecutors, individuals perceived as being representative of an over-politicized government. In the Georgia case, even grand jurors who voted to indict Trump face threats. With such an increase in people engaging in this kind of violent rhetoric, it's become even harder to discern which threats are credible. Jenna?
Caitlin, the people making these threats, do they have anything in common?
According to the University of Nebraska report, most individuals menacing public officials have a criminal history aligned with anti-government or racist ideologies.
All right, National Security Correspondent Caitlin Burke, thank you very much. Well, former President Trump says he will surrender himself on Thursday in Georgia. That's the day after the first GOP presidential debate, which he says he will not attend. 8 candidates are set to take the stage in Milwaukee tomorrow night, including Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, and former Vice President Mike Pence. Some calling Trump a coward for refusing to take the stage.
If I had his record, I'd be nervous about showing up too.
Nobody is entitled to anything in this world, less of all the Republican nomination for president.
Trump is the clear frontrunner in the race on Thursday. He will appear in a Georgia courtroom to face charges related to the 2020 election and his alleged efforts to overturn the results. The judge in the case has set Trump's bond at $200,000. The presidential candidate will have to pay 10% when he surrenders in Fulton County, Georgia. And with that, let's bring in our chief political analyst, David Brody. So, David, there were some headlines this weekend, I noticed, that Trump and his team are already focused on the general election. They think they have this primary wrapped up. What do you make of that? And the fact that Trump won't be on the debate stage tomorrow night?
Well, in terms of looking forward to the general election, I mean, it's always a little bit dangerous to do that. Having said that, the numbers don't lie, Jenna. I mean, I just don't see at this point a path for any other nominee. So I think Trump's chances are 99.9%. Go ahead. I know, Jenna, cue up the tape, cue up the video in 6 months when Trump implodes. But I think it's 99.9%. And why is that exactly? Well, a couple of things. One, even if you have the second place, let's say it's DeSantis in second place, then go ahead and let's pretend everybody else drops out. Even if you added them all up, Trump still beats the closest person by 10 or 15 points. So I don't see it mathematically happening at all. And remember, this is Donald Trump leading the field, lapping the field, 40-plus points ahead after 4 indictments. So, I mean, if that's not Teflon, I'm not quite sure what is.
David, do you think at the same time some of these cases, though, these legal troubles could weigh down President Trump? We know a lot of his money is being spent on these legal fees.
No, it's a great point. And I think that's where the one catch here is that from a monetary perspective, that's what the liberals, the left, they're trying to do that. They're trying to kind of bleed them dry, as they say. And yeah, I mean, that could be a problem. Having said that, Trump does a lot of non-earned media to the point where, you know, he's always in the news. And I think the fundraising will continue despite the fact that the left are trying to get him.
Yeah. So, David, looking to tomorrow night, what are you looking for in Milwaukee?
Well, it's still going to be interesting. I mean, Ron DeSantis is going to be center stage, so he's going to take a lot of the verbal barbs and the criticism. So I'm looking to see how he kind of handles that and whether or not he can actually not just handle it, but come out with a bounce from the debate. He needs that bounce. He needs a bounce desperately. If he doesn't, he's in big trouble. And then Mike Pence, I'm curious to see if he's going to get booed by the audience. We'll see what the makeup of that audience is. I think that will be interesting because that'll be a tough spot for him. And then Vivek Ramaswamy, he's the guy to look for. He's the guy that, you know, I've said this, Jenna. Remember, you can cue up that tape, too. I said, wait till Vivek Ramaswamy hits the debate stage. I think he's going to really be impressive to a lot of folks that don't even know who he is. They're like, Vivek what? Vivek Rama who? So I think it'll change. I think it'll change after Wednesday night.
David, you didn't mention Nikki Haley or Tim Scott.
Well, I didn't. And in a way, it was done on purpose because I think what's going to end up happening is Chris Christie's going to be in the mix because he's going to attack Trump all night, even though Trump's not there. DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, Pence will all be there. And there's Tim Scott and Nikki Haley kind of sliding by with a smile on their faces and actually doing a pretty standard job. I think that's what they'll do on Wednesday night. They could actually end up getting more of the bump because I think they're going to stay out of the fray. I'd be surprised if they get in the fray on Wednesday night.
All right, David Brody, we have to leave it there, but we will all be watching tomorrow night. We appreciate your insights this evening. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Jenna.
Well, tonight, as Californians clean up from Tropical Storm Hillary, the Gulf Coast is gearing up for hurricane season as 5 tropical systems line up in the Atlantic. Out west, crews are working to free cars stuck in the mud, clean up buildings, and rescue residents in the wake of the first tropical storm to hit Southern California in 84 years. Hillary first made landfall as a hurricane in Mexico's Baja California peninsula.
As you know, sometimes damage can occur in the hours and days after a storm hits, so Angelenos should continue to stay vigilant. The city family will continue working around the clock to respond, and we will need your help.
The recovery work in California comes as the National Hurricane Center warns of a surge in tropical storm systems that could bring heavy rain to South Texas this week. All right, coming up, a Tennessee special session showdown. What issues drove lawmakers to reconvene in Nashville this week? Welcome back. 7 months into the year, and the staggering toll of gun violence is becoming clear. More than 25,000 people have been shot and killed in 2023. The grim total adds up to about 118 deaths each day, according to the Gun Violence Archive. Of those who died, nearly 900 were teens, 170 children. Deaths by suicide account for more than half of all gun violence deaths, more than 14,000, and an average of some 66 deaths by suicide per day. The majority of gun deaths this year happened in Texas, California, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Illinois, and Louisiana. More than 420 mass shootings this year have killed 465 people. One of those shootings happened in March at a Christian school in Nashville. And this week, Tennessee lawmakers are holding a special session. Their aim to address the issue of gun violence. The contentious session kicked off last night as pro-gun control protesters gathered outside the Tennessee Capitol. Inside the chamber, opening statements quickly dissolved into a bitter back and forth between lawmakers. As Charlene Aaron reports, this special session is shining a spotlight on Tennessee's Republican governor and the GOP-led legislature.
The session is in response to the Covenant School shooting, where a former student killed 6 people, 3 9-year-olds and 3 adults, 2 of whom were friends of the governor's wife. One Republican lawmaker calls it a publicity stunt and urges the governor to cancel it. In a letter, Tennessee Representative Brian Ritchie writes to Lee that the General Assembly can further consider and discuss legitimate measures to improve public safety when the legislature convenes in January 2024. Democrat State Representative Gloria Johnson, who met with parents who protested at the state capitol following the shooting, says now is the time to act and praises the governor's move.
Sounds like he wants to try and prevent kids from dying in their classroom and folks from dying in a restaurant, and is willing to come to the table.
Johnson says Tennesseans from both sides of the political aisle are seeking a way forward.
There are smart things we can do, but I think the biggest right now are red flag laws.
Representative Jason Zachary and other Republicans see it as something of a non-starter.
You look at the makeup of the legislature within Tennessee, and just take the House, for example, there's 99 members in the House, 75 Republicans were a supermajority. And the vast majority of our caucus are not in support of red flags, are not in support of order of protection.
Local faith leaders also hope for change.
Of the Covenant School shooting in my own home, I know that I cannot be quiet and I cannot stand idly by. Life is precious.
Brent Leatherwood, a member of Southern Baptist Convention leadership and father of 3 children who survived the tragedy, wrote to lawmakers insisting they take action. More than a dozen pastors have signed on, including Pastor Nathan Parker of Nashville's Woodmont Baptist Church, which served as the reunification center after the shooting.
We say we believe in life and we work to preserve life, but yet when the #1 killer of children is firearms and we don't take action to preserve life, it's seen as inconsistent, and it is inconsistent. It's hypocritical.
These are children, and many innocent people are losing their lives. This is not about gun control. This is about protecting people's lives.
Meanwhile, as the eyes of the nation look on, Representative Zachary is calling on believers to pray as the gun debate plays out.
It's going to be a hot August day. Tensions can rise. We need to pray that cooler heads prevail and there is a sense of peace, that the Holy Spirit literally descends and brings peace.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News, Nashville, Tennessee.
All right, thank you, Charlene. Any legislation coming out of this session is expected to be announced later this week. Still ahead, being a mom isn't easy. How alcohol companies are taking advantage of and targeting women. New research is revealing binge drinking and marijuana use at record highs in middle-aged adults. 29% of adults ages 35 to 50 reported binge drinking, defined as 5 or more drinks in a row in the past 2 weeks. And daily marijuana use for that age group hit 6.5%, according to a new study from the University of Michigan. Hallucinogen use in the past 12 months is up to 4%, the highest level recorded in the study. Mommy wine culture is the catchphrase of a marketing campaign targeting mothers of young children. It aims to convince them they need alcohol to cope with the pressure of raising children. And social media memes make it seem like it's harmless fun. CBN medical reporter Lori Johnson, though, shows us why it's deadly serious.
Wine gets better with age. I get better with wine. Okay, guilty. You girls know that's true. We do.
The troubling messages often try to be humorous and appear on a number of products, from baby clothes with mommy drinks because I cry, to wine glasses with mommy's sippy cup, T-shirts reading coffee, hockey mom, wine repeat, and even memes like the most expensive part of having kids is all the wine you have to drink.
I think this messaging that is everywhere, it normalizes this behavior of drinking to survive parenthood. And it normalizes this idea that like drinking a lot is no big deal.
As it turns out, the messaging sadly reflects reality. Kelly Manley turned to alcohol to fit in with her peers, who she observed drinking everywhere at kids' birthday parties, soccer practices, you name it.
People would show up to the park with little, discreet glasses of wine to have at, 4 p.m. on a play date at the park. You go to the zoo and for a small upcharge, you can buy a flight of beer, not just a beer, but a flight of beer to enjoy while you're pushing your kid around the zoo.
And like other events these days, it's going digital, like the Moms Who Need Wine Facebook group.
Alcohol has been sold as the ultimate way to decompress, to cope, and to bond with other women. And it's very dangerous.
The alcohol industry has certainly played a part. Back in the 90s, it ushered in the so-called pinking of the market, making and advertising booze aimed specifically at women.
Drink these sweetened, pre-sweetened, gorgeous, attractive pink drinks that will end you into drinking spirits, drinking pretty wine, drinking wine with names like, French Rabbit.
And it worked. While historically men consumed the most alcohol, women are now catching up. In the last 15 years, the greatest increase in consumption has been among women in their 30s and 40s. However, because of biological differences, women absorb more alcohol and take longer to metabolize it than men. That means the same amount of alcohol typically damages the female body more than the man's. After drinking the same amount of alcohol, women tend to have higher blood alcohol levels than men, and the effects usually occur more quickly and last longer in women. Alcohol also makes women more susceptible than men to liver disease, heart disease, cancer, and cognitive decline. U.S. health officials recommend women should drink no more than 5 ounces of wine a day. Canadian health officials go further, saying only 2 5-ounce glasses per week.
This is a women's health issue. It's, in fact, a big public health issue.
And it's not just physical. Alcohol affects mental health, too. which is why Kelly gave it up.
It just exacerbated my feelings of anxiety and depression, and I felt like I was betraying myself every time I drank.
She's not alone. More moms are rejecting mommy wine culture and turning to groups like Sober Mom Squad.
Having a safe space where you can talk to other moms about, the questions you're having about alcohol or how difficult it is to navigate in this culture where everyone tells you you need to drink to be a parent, and not have to justify that you should just be grateful to have kids.
Many moms are also saying no because they're concerned about the culture's impact on their child's self-esteem.
Most problematic part of it is, what is it saying to your kids? Again, if it's, tongue-in-cheek jokes like between friends, that's one thing. But when you're wearing the t-shirt that said mommy needs wine, saying that you have to, I have to drink because you're difficult. I think that leads into something that's even more damaging.
So while pop culture and big alcohol try to convince new moms life is better with booze, a growing number are rejecting that message for the sake of their own health as well as their families. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Thanks, Lori. Well, tall tales and fish stories go hand in hand, but this fish tale has a heartwarming ending. That's next on Faith Nation. Finally tonight, a Minnesota teen made a big catch on a fishing expedition recently, and like many fishing stories, it's a surprising tale. 14-year-old Connor Halso was fishing with his family on Lake of the Woods in Minnesota, a body of water that's about 70 miles long and 20 feet deep. When he felt his line pull, the team reeled in his line to find a wallet on the other end, filled with $2,000 in cash. He also found a business card inside and tracked down the owner, a farmer from Iowa who lost the money in rough waters last year. The farmer drove to Minnesota to retrieve his wallet and offered the teen a reward. Connor turned down the cash reward but said yes to a custom-made cooler and dinner with his family and the farmer. And we will leave it there this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.